Hello, and welcome to week 8 of Parentification of Children and Grieving Families. I just wanted to pop on here real quick. This is going to be a short one this week. I have a couple of things that I wanted to go over. You have 5 chapters to read this week. Thank you for that. Each one of them individually are really important to this course and to preparing you for practice. So please take your time and read through them. I also wanted to take a moment and say this is the third week of the second half of this series, focusing on grief. So we're into it. We are really diving into this. Also wanted to acknowledge that this is week 8, meaning that last week was our halfway point. So congratulations, you've made it more than halfway. Also, we're going to take a moment and just say, just sit with it and say, I did it. I'm here. This is very content heavy course. The idea that we are pairing two topics, and I could probably teach 2 or 3 classes on this alone. So to put it into one 14-week course, congratulations, you're halfway through. Again, the 5 chapters this week: grief therapy, resolving complicated mourning, grieving special types of losses, grief in the family system, the counselor's own grief, excellent chapter. Please take your time on that one. And then training for grief counseling, again, preparing you for practice and for the field. But what I really wanted to focus on this week, and the reason why I'm popping on tonight, is the YouTube videos or the YouTube channels that were included in this week's assignment. The first one is the best songs for loss and grief. Please, it is extensive. It's about 3 or 4 hours long. I'm hoping that you'll have it on maybe in the car as you're driving, maybe if you go to the gym or if you're on the treadmill while you're making dinner. I just hope that you can get through all of that. If not, please scroll through at least the song list and see what you recognize, what you don't recognize. Maybe the ones that you're familiar with, you can skip through. And take into consideration how you're feeling about all of this. Just sit with and acknowledge your emotions. I am sure that there will be plenty of them. The second playlist is a playlist that is very personal to me. That is a playlist that I created after the loss of my son. And if you bear with me for a moment, I'd like to share what prompted me to create this course. On August 30th, 2021, my son was riding home from work, 11 o'clock at night. And while it was dark here on the eastern shore of Maryland, he was doing what he's supposed to do. He was going home. Unfortunately, someone crossed his path. They crossed the highway with no notice, and they collided, and my son was killed in the accident. My husband and I at the time were on our motorcycles down in the Florida Keys. So from Maryland to Florida, it's about, I think it was like 16, 18 hours on the bike. We were not here, obviously, and we were not able to be a part of the whole process. So it happened at 11 o'clock at night, and we weren't notified until about 2:15 in the morning, at which time we started our journey home. How this course came to be, I experienced so many emotions, so many thoughts, so many panics, that's just the only way to put it, was panic. Finally arriving home, having to identify our son, having to make arrangements for a 29-year-old, having to sell his house, having to just everything that's involved with that, having to support his friends, having to support his sister, just all of that all at once come flushing in. I realized that parentification doesn't just happen to children. It happens to adults. It happened to our daughter, who at the time was 33 years old. I watched it happen. I watched it unfold in front of me as the three of us, my husband, my daughter, and I, were sitting at the funeral home trying to make arrangements. And in that, my daughter kind of tried to take the rein and make some of the plans. What I realized, as was stated earlier in the weeks of training in parentification, was that she wasn't doing it because she was forced. She was doing it because she thought there was a void. She was doing it to protect my husband and I. She thought that if she did it, we maybe wouldn't have to deal with it. And that was not the case, obviously. Being her mother, I wanted to protect her. And I had to very cautiously remind her that she is his sibling and not his mother. Anyway, what we did, very personal, but what we did was we assigned each of the three of us tasks to get through those next few days. Unfortunately, this was during COVID. Again, it was August of 21. My son passed on August 30th. His wake and his funeral or his services weren't until the 12th and 13th. So that's a very long time. That grief is that open grief. That's the way I described it. I describe it as open grief. There was no closure. We weren't able to finalize things for almost 2 weeks. So it's a very long time. But that was due to the pandemic, and we're on the eastern shore of Maryland, and we were just overwhelmed with death here. So the playlist, getting back to that, is a playlist that I created of songs that helped me through those 2 weeks specifically. But it is not just grief, and I wanna just put that out there. It's not just grief. Those are some songs that my son had a very eclectic song list on his YouTube. So I stole some of those and created that list for me. I play it every day. I listen to it in the office or at home, but I usually play it at least once a day. It's good connection. Some days I cry, some days I don't. It's all just in whatever emotion I'm feeling. I allow that to happen, and I sit with that for just a time. So that experience that we had, or that I had with my daughter at that funeral home, prompted me to look into parentification due to grief, just a bit deeper. And I realized that there was a serious lack of information out there in field. What I found was information on parentification and information on grief, but hardly the two married together as one subject. So as I said before, that is one of the reasons why this 14-week course is so content heavy, is because we have to discuss each topic separately and then marry them together at the end. I want to take the time to thank you for allowing me to share my very personal story. And I want to thank you we're at week 8, we're halfway through. And you are going to be amazing, amazing practitioners, clinicians, and you are preparing yourself for work with families dealing with parentification due to grief. And I want to thank you for that, because you will be helping families as we needed help during that first few weeks after our son had passed. So thank you for that. enjoy the YouTube channels. There are a lot of great songs in there.